Well, with 4 rounds down, only 2 remain as we take to Zandvoort for round number 5 of the Sim Racing Collective PC GT3 Series here on Assetto Corsa Competizione. What a wild ride we had last time out at Silverstone, and before that, the 3 rounds before that, well, they were something to behold. But now we take to the Netherlands, and then, of course, in a week's time, we take to Mount Panorama, Bathurst, for the season finale of season number 3. And, well, it really is gearing up in terms of the championship fight, with the top 3 only separated by 10 points heading into the penultimate round at Zandvoort. It is myself, Zach Sweeney Kelsey Gill, alongside me once more in the commentary booth to talk you through all of the action here today, of course, on the JP Broadcasting YouTube channel. Thank you to everyone watching along. We hope you do enjoy the coverage in the 15-minute qualifying at the moment, Kelsey. And, of course, welcome into the commentary booth. It's a pleasure to have you alongside me once more. But tricky circuit, Zandvoort, isn't it?
Yeah, hello, good evening everyone. Good evening, Zach. Yeah, tricky circuit we've got on the calendar, well, on the cards today. It's Zandvoort. You know, it's an old circuit in terms of my F1 knowledge, and there's plenty of twists and turns. There's much undulation, Zach. You like a bit of undulation on your race tracks, of course. And yeah, it's a twisty one. It's going to be some tough overtaking. I'd expect to see some moves down in towards Tarzan. That's turn 1, of course, and then you've got I think it's turn 11, another heavy braking zone on the circuit, and maybe into turns number 10 and 9 as well. I mean, there's plenty of options for overtaking, but it's going to be some very close racing, and I would expect, sorry, to see some form of incidents perhaps this evening. That corner looks so weird without the banking there, Zach.
It does, yeah. I mean, well, just proving your point about undulation here, dipping down as you ride your way back up through the S's, and then probably one of the quickest corners on the circuit, this quick flick to the right hand. But, of course, yeah, you're very much correct in saying that, yeah, it's a bit weird to see the old rendition of the circuit. Of course, 2021 saw the inaugural Dutch Grand Prix in, I think about 35 years in Formula 1, so bit of a revamp, making it a very, very banked corner, of course, at turns 1, 2, 3, 4, and then of course the final corner, of course, to round off the circuit. A bit of a heavy banking, but everyone knows that if you follow along with Formula 1. Of course, ACC not keeping up with the times just yet and not introducing the new banking, so we're in old school, very flat, very different sort of couple of corners, which shouldn't really, well, I was about to say it shouldn't really change the dynamic too much, but in terms of comparing this circuit to the Formula 1 circuit, turns 4 and the final corner really were a lot easier when it comes to negotiating them. But you can see now Eric Larson really having to actually treat the last corner as a corner. Same too with turn number 3. You can't rely on the banking to rotate the car.
No, you certainly can't. And I think, you know, despite the banking being taken away, I mean, you saw the slopes and all of the sort of coverage as well when the circuit first came on. Those were incredibly banked corners, but there's still some sort of camber to them, it seems, as they're sort of going through. You could see that it was on camber coming for that final corner, and maybe a little bit towards Tarzan there as well, as we watch Sims make his way through and that Ferrari along there. But it's strange, and I mean it looks so different. I mean the circuit just looks incredibly bare bones, and it's quite a shock to the system, I'd say.
Yeah, it's a bit different. Obviously, for these guys, I'm sure they're more accustomed to ACC as opposed to the Formula 1 game, which to my knowledge is the only game that actually has the banking bar sort of normal Assetto Corsa and R-Factor 2 with a couple of mods here and there maybe to introduce them. But in terms of mainstream base games, I think F1 is the only one that has it. So ACC and these guys are going to probably be on familiar territory, in all fairness, in terms of Zandvoort and their experience of it. So, I mean, yeah, I'm sure we're in for a very, very wild ride. But banking aside, in of itself, Zandvoort as a fundamental is a very tricky circuit. I mean, you look left, you look right, you look forward, you look backwards. There's grass, there's gravel, there's a barrier to meet your way.
Yeah, there's twists, there's turns, there's, you know, the undulation once again, and it's going to be a tough one for all of the drivers, I think. And, you know, there's gravel to meet you if you run wide, there's grass to meet you if you run wide, and hell, in towards turn number 3, there's a lot less runoff than there are on the newer iteration of the circuit. You'll met with a wall immediately, and if you're unlucky enough, you'll be sent to see Barrier, Zach's old friend.
And honestly, I've trained you so well, Kelsey. I really have. I'm so proud. That was a proud dad moment. I know I'm like 7 years younger than you, but that was a proud dad moment, I have to say. At the moment, we see Slav Volodya in the Absolute Racing Porsche trying to work his way back up the field. 2 seconds off the pace as it stands, moves up 7/10 of a lap faster. Up now to P8. Bit of an update, of course, on the timetable. Sam Fleety leads pole position with a 1:35.910, just under 2 cents back. Dominic Ligner, championship leader. Sir Smoggy, top 3. Guillaume Hamling, Eric Larson just in behind. Maurice Stryker, the top 6. Elias Troyer, and he's up there in P7 overall. I think that says a lot about that 63 Audi.
Yeah, it does. Really mixing it up with the big wigs. You know, possible. I mean, carry on that form, and he might find himself in amongst the pro-ams in no time soon. But yeah, a great lap on the in these opening stages of. I think we're about halfway now. I'd have thought, looking at the time. Yeah, we're just approaching that halfway mark, just under. But yeah, great time from Troyer there, and that's number 63 Audi.
Indeed so, and we'll be looking to maybe chip away at it even more. Of course, the way this works, if you are new, of course, to the Sim Racing Collective and the way it works on ACC, they don't have 3 separate fields. It's not going to be all of the pros lined up, then all of the pro-ams, or silvers, I should say, lined up, then all of the AMs lined up. It's as you see it on the qualifying sheet. So Elias Troyer will line up just behind Maurice Stryker. He won't line up alongside Badari in that regard. So he has actually done himself a world of favors, putting what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars between himself, or 6. I actually can't say 6 cars between himself and Badari in the 720 McLaren, which will do him, of course, a lot of favors. Not only the fact that he's just under a second faster than the 720 machine, but also the fact he has got 6 cars between himself and of course the McLaren is really going to help him come winning this race. And of course, actually an update for the championship standings. I know I talk about the pros a lot, of course Smoggy, Dominic Ligner and Sam Fleety, the top 3, but in terms of the silvers, Mark Peters leading the way from Luca Raya, then Gergely Conchabo. They are only separated by 19 points in the silvers. James Wright actually in 4th, only a point behind the Hungarian in 3rd. And then of course looking to the AMs, and I'm sure it's just as close, in all fairness, and indeed it is. Davide Massi leads the way, 78 points to Elias Troyer's 72, then Simone Badari in 3rd on 62. So again, incredibly close, it must be said. And Elias Troyer up there in 8th place. Pole, of course, for the AMs, as we were saying. Well, he's looking pretty good in terms of scoring some good championship points with Davide Massi, the championship leader, not yet to set a time. And, of course, with Badari 3rd place in the championship, all the way down in 15th. That lap from Troyer, you know, this late on in the season could be very decisive.
Yeah, this late in the season, it's crunch time. You've really got to get those results in now. You've got to be finishing towards the front. You've got to be bringing home as many points as you can. And, you know, doing both the job on qualifying and in the race as well. And that's really going to sort of set you up. But, yeah, Davide Massi hasn't yet made it out onto the circuit yet. Still in the pits, it says here on the timing sheet. So it's going to be a little bit of time. And I think there's a chance that Troyer's time could slip closer to the rest of the AMS field. But for now, P8 in amongst the pros is an incredible job for now. But he'll want to try and maybe push that a little bit further. And he won't be sitting too tight right now. I think he'll be watching what Badari and Massi are able to produce on their qualifying runs. But for now, he's provisionally the pole man for the AMS.
Indeed so. Scott Vincent doing quite well for the silvers. He really has impressed since his debut back in Imola, I do believe, for the 121 BMW. Talking, though, we'll jump back to the pros. So Smoggy, Sam Fleety, Dominic Ligner, separated by nothing. Well, that's in the past now. Sam Fleety, a sensational lap time, a 1:35.652 for the young Briton. Sees him now just under 2/10 clear of Sir Smoggy in the top 3 in the championship, locking up the top 3 slots in the grid so far. 5.5 minutes left to go, of course, but incredibly close in that fight for pole. And, well, talking of it, I mean, we've spoken about Elias Troyer and his pole lap and things like that, and having that track position. We're talking in terms of the pros, Sam Fleety, Sir Smoggy, Dominic Ligner, at a circuit like Zandvoort, that track position, well, that's surely going to be so vital when you're that close on pace to be able to get just that little bit of a margin ahead of your rivals and then be able to hold that track position, because again, this circuit's not going to be that easy to overtake.
No, it's really not, and it's going to be a circuit where you're going to have to try and take the chances when they come, and they're going to have to really be committed into making those overtakes, especially when it comes to drivers making mistakes around them. And yeah, Felitti, Smokey, and Ligner, these three at the top, they're going to have their work cut out. I mean, to take a quick flashback to last week as well, we watched some incredible defending from Jack Southfield in that Porsche. Who was holding off, I believe it was Oscar Saristo, lap after lap after lap until they quite dramatically came together, and there was a lot of defending going on. And I think a track like this is only going to assist those drivers who can really defend their position and get the car in the right places. And I think we could be in for quite a race this evening, actually, Zach, because you know, despite how difficult it is to overtake on this circuit, I think, you know, these drivers, especially with it being the penultimate round, we're going to have quite a race to talk about.
I think so. The stakes really are high, of course. Right on back on board with the Estonian of Volodya. Up back now to P8 with 3.5 minutes left to go. Oh, well, actually, I say 3.5 minutes, but just over 3.5 minutes. 3.75 of a minute left to go. And he gets himself back up into 8th place and back ahead of anyone in a lower division, which is quite important. Samuel Chumley, though, unfortunately, in the 111 Audi, yet to set a time. Can we just talk for a second, all right? Because this is a little bit of a pet peeve, right? Just a little bit. Angie Pike, Kieran Sharp, not very nice, by the way. 2.5 seasons, actually more than now, because we're on to the penultimate round of Season 3. I've done this championship since it started on PC, right? Only now have they told me how to pronounce that name. I've been saying Chumondali for the last 2.5 seasons, and only now they've told me how to actually pronounce it. And I'm not being funny, right? If they weren't paying me, right, we'd be having some scraps in some alleyways. I've got to be honest, Kelsey.
Yeah, I mean, you look, that name is a trap. Let's put it simply. Like, it looks, there's so many more letters in it. You think, it must be pronounced Chimondale. But when you hear it's pronounced I can't even say it.
Sounds so Birmingham.
I can't even say it. Exactly. I can't bring myself to say it how it's properly said, because I want to say Chimondale, but Chumley, it just really takes a lot from the name. I prefer it as Chimondale, to be honest. Like, I'd tell people, hey, my name's Chimondale, man, not Chumley. Like, there's so much more to it. But I mean, if you want to roll with it that way, then, you know, that's the way it is, I suppose. I mean, we'll try and correct it, but my brain is just, I mean, look, I'm glad that there's some more normal looking names. I mean, I'm used to people's gamer tags, which are hard enough to pronounce, but you get names like this and you think, God, bring me back those gamer tags, please.
You've not had the worst of it. I have told you about the Porsche Club GT3 race with me and Cameron Roger had at Spa one time, where the entire grid was full of Poles. And don't get me wrong, I love Polish people. I love all people, right? But some of their names, you know, there's more Z's and Y's than there are vowels, and it gets very, as a British person, that is incredibly difficult to pronounce. So one of honestly, the biggest task as a British commentator is learning how to pronounce names. You know, you go to Hungary and you've got to learn how different, different letters together make different sounds, and etc., and try and apply that on the fly when you're pronouncing names. It is very, very difficult, but of course, to each their own. I guess you've got the better end of the stick, and the fact you've only been here for half a season, you found out how it's pronounced, which, you know, good for you. You've not been looking like an absolute tart for the last, what is it now, 6 months, 7 months, I think I've been doing this. Good long time, in all fairness. So anyway, we'll stop waffling about that before I get myself frustrated and angry, and get booted off the broadcast by everyone, because they can't deal with it. Hormonal teenager and all that, I suppose. Anyway, 1 minute left on the clock. Sam Fleety now just over half a tenth clear of Dominic Ligner, who he himself about 3.5 tenths clear of Sir Smoggy. Eric Larson, though, putting in the exact same time versus the championship leader. So it is going to come down to this. Jack Southfield improving to a 1:36.0. Not quite good enough to see him ahead of Maurice Stryker, but still a decent result. And as the clock ticks down to 0, Dominic Ligner still in the pit lane. So Smoggy out on circuit. Well, this seems to be a very, very close finish. And this is where the pressure's on, Kelsey.
Yeah, it really is, and it looks like Lars Stroy has improved his time just a few tenths as well, so he's got himself a little bit closer, as well. He's even ahead of the Pro-Am's pole position time of Jack Wright at the moment. And I don't think Massey has made his way out onto the circuit. Is he here this evening? I don't know what's going on. Or is he waiting to the dying moments? What is he going to do for the last to first challenge? What is going on with the leader of the AMs?
He's having fun. He's playing with his food, I guess. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, Zandvoort. Similar to Monza, in all fairness. Actually, no, I'll retract that point. I've thought about it, and I've realised that I don't really agree with it. But I was about to say it's similar to Monza, where you either want to start right at the front or right at the back. But then I realised no, because it's really hard to overtake. But then again, I suppose there is the fact that if you start at the back, any carnage in front of you, you're able to capitalise off it and find your way through. So maybe there is that. But the timer ticks down to 0. The checker flag is waved in qualifying. Can Zach Sweeney make any indent on Sam Fleety's pole time? No. Comes into the pit lane. Maurice Stryker is the only man left to do so. He needs a 0.6 of a second improvement. And well, through the penultimate corner, right-hander. Then, of course, following into the final corner, the right-hander. Sam Fleety at the moment sets the benchmark. 1:35.395 is the way for him to go and get himself actually onto pole position once more in this season. Maurice Stryker across the line. It's an improvement, but it's only 5th at the end of what was a sensational qualifying session. And Sam Fleety, well, honestly, brilliant lap time, and a very important lap time as well, as we were saying.
Yeah, track position is going to be key here, and as we've said a couple times now already, and yeah, look at that, they're incredibly close between the top 6 or 7 drivers there, and an incredible qualifying.
Indeed so, and well, here we go for the results. As I said, rounding off after 15 minutes, Sam Fleety takes pole position. Dominic Aligna joining him alongside on the front row. So Smogy, Eric Larson, 3 and 4, with Maurice Stryker rounding off your top 5. Then comes the youngster Jack Southwood rounding off row 3, Graham Hamling, Elias Troyer, 7th and 8th, and of course the 63 machine. Pole for the AMS, and ahead of James Wright, who takes pole for the Silvers. Martin Blankensteiner rounds off the top 10 with the Estonian of Slav Volodya P11. Luca Rai P12 with Scott Vincent P3 in the Silvers, able to take P13 overall. Paul Sims, Zampieri, Rubini, Badari, Shatler, Chumley, and Massey round off the 20-car field we have in store for us today. And while the championship leader of the AMS all the way back down in P20, that's going to be a talking point, a story that we're going to be very, very interesting to see how it develops as the race goes on.
Yeah, I think so. We're going to be watching as he makes his way up the grid and into those higher places to challenge Elias Troyer, who, you know, it is a championship on the line between the two of them. So it's going to be quite the story indeed. And we'll be watching eagerly as the top 3 of the pros fight amongst themselves in these early laps of the race. It's going to be quite an interesting race to go as well. And Scott Vincent not in a bad place, actually. P3 for the Pro-Ams at the moment. So he'll want to try and make his way up the field as well. I mean, I'm not sure how much he's in it in the championship. I don't think he's aboard the top 3, but he'll still want to go out there and put in a good performance.
As well, everyone, as the season rounds a close. Of course, 1 minute on the clock before we get ourselves underway for 40 minutes of racing action. We revert back to the old format. Silverstone was a one-off, and well did it work. Introduced, of course, first in Season 2 at Brands Hatch, the dual race format of one of a sprint, and then, of course, one for a feature decided by the grid of qualifying, and the first one decided by the reverse championship order of the 3 field, and it really did work well. So maybe looking forward for Season 4 to see which circuit hosts the sprint format if we do have one. But yeah, back to the old school 15-minute qualifying, 40-minute race. And well, I am really looking forward to seeing how round number 5 gets itself underway, particularly as we've got the top 3 in the Pro Championship in the top 3 slots. That's a pressure cooker waiting to explode.
Yeah, it really is, and it's going to be all important into that first corner to see where these guys sort of filter out, I suppose. And I think, you know, Dominic Aligna's had a great couple of very dominant runs in the last few races that we've had, and he's really been getting back into grips with the championship, and it's going to be putting some pressure on Sir Smogy, who is going to be starting just behind him. So watch those two as they go along as well. There could be a challenge from that Mercedes upon that Audi in these early stages of the race, but don't count any of these pro guys out. All these drivers are incredible, Zach, and I've enjoyed my time here with the GT3s at the moment, and I'll be looking forward to more as we go ahead.
Indeed so. Back onto the formation lap once more for one more race, of course, in the TSRC. And then, of course, in a week's time, we do it for one final time around Bathurst, a legendary circuit. But so too is Zandvoort in its own right. And that's the attention for today. Right now, though, for these guys, I mean, if you're in a championship situation, Kelsey, are you thinking of next week, or are you 100% focused on what's happening today?
you're thinking of today. I mean, look, it goes, you know, it goes in life as well. You've got to be thinking about where you are right now. You can't be thinking about the future. You can't be thinking about past results. You've got to think about, right, what I'm in control of the situation right now. I can get myself set up best for next time, and then I can worry about next time when next time inevitably comes around. And you know, in a championship situation, I've not found myself in those too many times as a driver, but as going self-burn, yeah, but you know, I'm being honest here. Yeah, we're getting, you know, it gets to a point where you've got to focus on everything that you're going on right now. You can't make any mistakes in the right now. You can't be complacent in the right now. You've got to take every opportunity, and I'm sure on this formation lap, as I've loved to say at the moment, it's all about getting everything ready and getting that mindset ready and going ahead into the race with the best mindset possible to score maximum points.
And how do you do that as a driver on the formation lap? Talking of the right now, how do you prepare yourself for the race ahead?
You just get yourself in the zone. You've got to, you know, visualize everything that you're going to be doing up ahead. You've got to sort of quell any pressure or any nerves that you might be feeling in that moment as well. And you've just got to think, right, I've got a set amount of laps. I've got 40 minutes of racing. I've got to race hard. I've got to defend. I've got to attack. I've got to push. I've got to do all of this. And I mean, yeah, it can be quite overwhelming because you've got all these things to kind of think about. But, you know, these guys are incredible drivers. And I think, you know, when you're a driver, you're in that mindset. It's you and the car. And that is where you've got to be.
Absolutely. Well, as we round into the final two corners, the drivers take to their Noah's Ark 2x2 formation. Sam Fleety, Dominic Aligna alongside him. So Smoggy, Eric Larson, Marie Striker, Jack Southfield, your front three rows. Elias Troyer, they're up there in the AMs. James Wright just in behind for the Silvers. For one more corner, then the run to the line for a 40-minute dash to the flag. One mandatory pit stop along the way, but the penultimate round of the third season of the Sim Racing Collective PC GT3 Series here on Assetto Corsa Competizione. We're about to get underway for a bit of racing here in Zandvoort. And while the top three in the championship lock out the top three slots in qualifying, 40 minutes on the clock, we wait for the green flag to wave to signal us underway. Sam Fleety controls the pace. When is he going to put his foot to the floor? On the inside, of course, on that run in towards turn number one, the 16 Mercedes. He waits. He goes. We're underway in the Netherlands, and side by side, Dominic Ligner trying to already put some pressure on. He might actually have a nose ahead as they are on their way in towards the brakes for turn number one. Side by side in the background, there's Sir Smoggy and Eric Larson trying to run too wide. Sam Fleety holds the line, but there we go, side by side. Sir Smoggy trying to move himself up into second place. Inside line for turn number three. Has it held? The German tries to go the long way around, tries to stick it up the inside for turn number three. No way through for now. Eric Larson sat in the sidelines. Maurice Stryker trying to move his way forward. It's Jack Southfield with a sensational start up to fifth now as they ride their way down the hill back up to round off sector number one, and a dream start there for Sam Fleety.
Yeah, certainly he's kept the lead, he's kept his cool, and that's where he's going to want to be in this race as well. And I think there's a timing error or something going on the grid, or we're a lot further down. I'm not really sure. That's Badari off the circuit there towards turn three. But yeah, an absolute dream start, and I think Sir Smoggy getting ahead of Dominic Aligna, that's going to be huge.
It is indeed. Really is a good, put his name out there. Oh, Simone Badari, that is unfortunate. We saw just the tail end of a bit of a sensational crash there towards the back end of it. Well, we saw the start of it, then we very abruptly cut away. But back to the live action right at the front. Sam Fleety controls the pace. Smoggy, Dominic Aligna, of course, trying to make up some points, but Dominic Aligna can't afford to lose any points. Already a few behind Sir Smoggy, who as it stands in this point in the championship is doing everything in his power to limit the damage, extend some gaps where he can. Sam Fleety is a little bit further behind Dominic Aligna, so maybe Sir Smoggy said it's okay, I can afford to lose a couple of points here as Dominic Aligna, a crucial mistake, loses the front end of the car, rides off the circuit a little bit, and that could be a very crucial confidence loss maybe if he repeats that mistake. The pressure is on for him to stay with the front two.
I think he's out there doing some lawnmower racing, Zach, getting out on the grass there. Now, you won't want to do that too many more times as the wall's not too far away in there. We're watching, I'm going to say Chimondale. I can't bring myself to say it properly. But he's started P19. He's up to P13 at the moment, making his way through the twists and turns of Sector 1 and that bright pink Audi at the moment. But yeah, and look at that, Sam Fleety well ahead at the moment, and I think Smoggy's going to be focusing on the car behind rather than the one in front.
Oh, indeed he is. He's got to anchor down potentially on board Jack Southfield, putting some pressure on Eric Larson as they run their way through turn number 9 in towards turn 10, having a bit of a look. You know, he thought about it. Jack Southfield is no stranger to attacking and defending very aggressively, and that's probably one of the strongest attributes of the 64 Porsche, representing, of course, the sim racing collective themselves, and doing a pretty good job of it in all fairness. As much as Andrew Pike would like to deny that fact, he is very much impressing. Down the back straight towards the chicane of turns 12 and 13, very twitchy on the rear end as this Porsche GT3, putting the pressure on Eric Larson, who, well, you can definitely tell that Jack Southfield is the quicker car here. He knows that. Eric Larson knows that. So surely it's a case of Southfield wanting to get through and wanting to chase after the two in front.
Yeah, for sure. And remember that Larson was only recently promoted up into the pros, only a few rounds ago. And, you know, he's been impressing, and I think he'll do well to try and keep Jack Southfield behind him. But, you know, we saw what Jack can do out on the track in both races in Silverstone. So we're going to, I think it's going to be quite the battle if Larson can keep him behind for now. But you saw how close Jack Southfield's Porsche was to the back of that Mercedes going through turn 12 there. And look, he's getting even closer now, filling up the mirrors of that Mercedes coming through that turn 3 right there. And a little shaky out of the exit, but he's definitely the quicker car.
He is indeed, and well, it's just a matter of trying to find the space. Of course, welcome in everyone to the YouTube chat on the JP Broadcasting YouTube channel. We know James is in there, and well, we've already had some very tough words exchanged between myself and James, arguing about my height, which is a bit out of order. Also can see Ghost in there, saying Dream Duo, of course, old friend Ghost. Love to see you in the chat. Thank you, of course, for your support. There's the move from Jack Southfield, though, looking to the inside of turn number 10. He's found his way through. Around the outside, though, goes Eric Larson, gives him the inside for the upcoming very long left-hander, though the Porsche might have the legs to soar his way all the way around the outside. He might be committed, might be brave, might be bold. Off the road, Jack Southfield loses out, and Guillaume Hamling might eye up the pie to get himself inside the top 5.
Yeah, going over the inside now. This is exactly what I said. We're going to see some of the action tonight, and that Guillaume Hamling is really capitalised on that mistake from Jack Southfield there, and that's what I mean. This circuit is so difficult, and you're met with grass and everything. So one wheel off the line even, and that's it. You're going to be losing places potentially, and Jack Southfield's just proved our point there, and he's going to have to get some work done now to make up that place.
He is indeed. Well, he's tried to take one step forward. Unfortunately, has taken 2 back in his bid for 4th place and maybe even beyond as we tick past 5 minutes into this race. 34.55 seconds left to go. And well, as I was saying, thank you to those that are joining us in the YouTube chat. Chaz Meister, are you two going to do comms for the Porsche British Cup coming up for TSRC? Unfortunately not. I'm busy on a Wednesday, but it is going to be Kelsey and Dan, I believe, talking you through the action as we see Anthony Schattler on the back of Rubini. This is an interclass fight, so no championship points up for grabs here, but Schattler's still trying to find a way through regardless. And well, as it stands, these two are in a bit of a no man's land, so they might as well, you know, work their way, you know, have a bit of a fight amongst themselves, have a bit of fun with it.
Yeah, why not? You find yourself that far down the grid, and you think, you know, it's always happy to see a car. Is that I see a black X on the back of that car. I think that's one of those rookie ones, right, Zach?
I think that's novice, isn't it? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Anthony Schattler. I mean, I don't want to say anything, but you know, the livery says it all, doesn't it? The livery speaks volumes, does it not, about a race car?
Oh yeah, it certainly does. And I mean, it tells everybody on the circuit exactly exactly what you are out there. I mean, no shame being new to the sport, but I was only new myself a few weeks ago. But yeah, for sure. But yeah, I will be doing the Porsche Cup, and I'm actually quite excited to do it.
Yeah, well, you've become accustomed with TSRC. You might as well do a bit more for him. And of course, the Porsche, a fantastic car, in all fairness, on ACC. It's one I've never been able to really get accustomed with because I love it on GT Sport. I mean, when I did a championship for GT Sport, I was loving the Porsche. I was like, yeah, winning every race on the podium, doing awesome. Then it comes to do it like a reality check when it comes to an actual simulator, and I'm like, yeah, no, this car does not like me. You brake and the car will slide. You turn, the car will turn. And it's very much like, I'm going to use Alex Albon's analogy here as he did a couple of days ago. Go onto Call of Duty, turn your sensitivity all the way up to 10, 11, 12. That is what the Porsche feels like to drive. It is so front-end based, and the rear of the car under braking is so sketchy that you have to drive the car on a knife's edge. It's quick if you can, but it is incredibly, incredibly difficult, but it's very quick. and it produces some really, really good racing. And yeah, really looking forward to watching it. I mean, when I'm done with my little shenanigans, might pop into the YouTube chat, might catch up with it, because I'm sure we're going to see a lot of familiar faces. And well, of course, alongside Dan, you get yourself some experience. You get to commentate with a couple of people here in JPB. There's Samuel Chumley though, inside line against Paul Sims. Again, inter-class battle, but Chumley really taking some risks there, trying to get up the inside of the Ferrari.
Yeah, really taking some risks. We watched him make a recovery drive in the second race of the sprints last week, after watching him go from third to first in the first. And yeah, a really risky move, and really, well, really proving my point, really, that drivers are going to have to be taking risks where they can. But that one was certainly close, almost some paint traded between the two cars there. Wants to put a little bit of pink on that sort of olive green Ferrari.
That's green.
It looks green.
Is that green?
It looks sort of olive green to me. I don't know. I mean,
I've been seeing it as grey. I'll be honest. I'm not the person to ask when it comes to colours. I wrote half my GCSEs in a green pen because I thought it was a black pen. I kid you not. That is exactly what happened. Anyway, Samuel Chumley looking to the outside of Paul Sims, who just waves him through. He says, "Off you go." But yeah, no, I've always thought that Ferrari's grey, and I feel very stupid that you pointed out as green, because I can kind of see it as green. Regardless of which, we'll stop saying it, because honest, I never hear the end of it. I don't know what it is, but as a commentator, you try and find words that you like, the 111 or the British driver or whatever. You try and find something else other than their name to use to call the car, and I can never call the car by its color, because I'm like, unless I'm 100% sure, I'm like, yeah, the red car goes to the inside. When it comes to like borderline colors like that, no hope. I panic, and I'm like, no, because if I mess it up, I'm gonna look like a right idiot on the YouTube chat. So I just don't. But yeah, anyway, my color blindness aside, because again, we'll not indulge too much in that, because this little scrap here, second place in the pros, so Smokey Dominic Aligner looks quite spicy in the upcoming future.
Yeah, this has certainly been brewing over the last 9.5 minutes of racing at the moment, and yeah, Dominic Aligner is certainly letting So Smokey know that he's there, and it's going to be staying with him, I'd imagine. This could get spicy when the pit stops come around, and it could get spicy before that. I mean, that Audi's looking incredibly quick, closing in slowly, but that's a little look towards Tarzan, but no dive from the Audi at the moment. I mean, these guys, there's a championship on the line between the two of them. They're not too worried about Sam Fleety. As long as they score points, they're going to stay well clear of him. It's these two that are going to be fighting it out for that top place. And Dominic Aligner, after the poor start at the beginning of the season, will definitely want to make his way up to the top, as Jack Southfield having a look around the outside of turn 3, trying to make up for a previous mistake. At the moment, no way through as Hamling closes the door on the Porsche. We're going to watch as they go through the dunes, through this undulation along the coast of the Netherlands at the moment, but no way through for Sam Fleety through this fast right-hander now, and these two are definitely going to be having quite the scrap.
Yeah, of course, and well, looking a little bit spicy. Guillaume Hamling under a world of pressure from the 64 Porsche, who once again might eye up the look to the inside. Outside line once again, ducking and diving. Can't quite find a way through for now. Guillaume Hamling parking that Lamborghini perfectly, but early on the power, I should say, opens the door into turn 11. Does Guillaume Hamling, but once again, Jack Southfield unable to find a way through. And well, as they work their way down the back straight once more, Jack Southfield is having another look, but where do you go for a move around Zandvoort? I mean, it's renowned for its difficulty to overtake, but where? How do you make those moves?
You've just got to try and take those opportunities when they come, you know. I mean, look, a track like this, there's not going to be too many opportunities to naturally get a move. You get a circuit like, let's say, Silverstone. There was a lot of chances to make moves around Silverstone last week, and we saw plenty of that. And I mean, some of those went wildly wrong, and some of those went just about perfect. But in towards Tarzan, that's a great place to take a little move if you get the run through on the other car, though. I mean, you can try and make a dive into turn 3, but I think without the banking there as well, I think what the banking added to that corner is that there were so many lines that you could take through there that it made it just a little bit different. I mean, it's sort of a downhill cambered corner, but it then comes back uphill, is what it seems on this circuit. But it's not really the best of places to go. I think the next part of the circuit where Jack Southfield tried to make a move before, I think it was turns number 9 and 10. That's another good place to have a go. And even turn 11, where we saw Hamling make his way through.
Yeah, because the nature of 1011 is the fact that you bring it out to the left as you exit off 1010. You bring it all the way back to the right to open up 1011. In doing so, you leave a massive gap on the inside that if someone's looking spicy, like Jack South, who just fought about there, he little bit of a nip to the left-hand side, thinking about it because you open the gap. It's a strategy used quite often in karting, is the sense that if someone swings it back round to open up the corner, you nip it on the inside and you take that opportunity. So yeah, 1011 is a pretty good avenue to find a way through potentially. But I think the main factor around a circuit where it's difficult to overtake is psychological. You duck, you dive, you feel the mirror, you put the pressure on, you fake moves, you back off moves, you send your opponent into a fake sense of security. You give them that sense of familiarity, and well, mistakes like that certainly are not going to help Kian Hamling's run down the pit straight. He should be secure enough though versus Jack Southfield, who wasn't quite close enough. But what you do is you give them that sense of security. If you're close, you don't send it on that lap. You wait and you do it the next lap. You do it the next lap. So much so that when you are intending to go for a move, they're not going to defend. They're going to think, oh no, he's close, but he's not going to send it. I'm fine. I won't defend. Then bam, you send it up the inside. Easy peasy. Caught him off guard. Jobs are good and you're up a place. It's that playing that psychological game and feeding your opponent the information you want them to have, cherry picking it and then exploiting it at the best convenient time for you. And talking of convenient times in this race, the pit window is now open for the next 13 minutes and 50 seconds. And of course, in that time, the drivers have to come into the pit lane, take a fuel stop, and then continue on their way once more. It is an interesting dynamic, and more so, I'd say, at this circuit than most on the calendar this year.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, this circuit with its being difficult to overtake is going to be its strategy is going to be quite crucial. I mean, gaining and losing time. Here comes that Porsche Velogia making his way down the inside of the BMW of Scott Vincent. That was a move through turn. I think that was turn 9 there. That was a fairly risky move. It's quite a fast corner with a bit of sharp braking as you go into it. But that was a good bit of inter-class fighting there, and took the opportunity as it came. And again, just to go back to the point of battling with other cars, it is just about psyching out your opponent. You know, it's equal parts watching the guy behind you is the guy behind you watching you. You're looking out for those mistakes, or looking out for those little bits, as you see there, Velogia going off the circuit. You're just looking for those opportunities where, okay, this guy's slow here, I can capitalize on that, I can try and get a better exit. Or let's say if we're in a free car fight, for example, you know, you're watching the two guys, you're hoping these two guys are going to come together and I can just slot down the inside, get 2 places, and you know, jobs are good, and you're off.
Indeed, so a lot of different strategies to enforce. Schattler, though, putting his novice plate to good use. A stop-go 30 on his way. Of course, a penalty that has definitely gone the way of potentially speeding the pit lane. However, he has had to take qualification. You know, he's recently taken up bacon, likes a bit of muffins or cupcakes or whatever he wants to bake in the kitchen. He's had to take one to make sure that he doesn't bake while driving. And potentially that penalty is for failing that qualification, which wouldn't be too surprising in the hands of Anthony Schattler. But of course, Sampieri is there as well with a stop-go 30. Speeding in the pit lane is what we're going to assume is what that particular infringement is for. And well, I suppose it is easily done here at Zandvoort. The way you peel off into the pit lane, you're going quite fast. You got a bit of a chicane before you actually hit the pit limit line. I mean, it is easily done here.
Yeah, and it makes it all the harder when you're baking brownies and you're going into the into the pit lane. You know, you've got to be focusing on where that line is, not the consistency of your batter, I suppose.
No, definitely it's not. Dominic Ligner, though, into the pit lane from Fast Forward Racing from 3rd place on the field, trying to get the undercut versus his rival of Sir Smoggy. And well, hopefully when this is all done and dusted, he's going to be the one celebrating by baking some brownies, by getting ahead of his championship rival. Back to this fight, though. Vaishlav Velogia trying to move forward, and as they approach turn number 1, well, Paul Sims, I think, just opens the door, goes very wide and maybe invites Slav through, but not quite the case. Into the pit lane, I think, so trying to stay nice and wide and stay predictable. Scott Vincent just in behind as well. Are they going to fight? Are they going to work together? Scott Vincent staying in behind. So Slav Velogia able to stay in front for now and continue on his way. 10.5 minutes left to go at that pit window, of course, and we still wait for the entirety of the top 12 to do so. Noted, of course, by the little orange box with a white 1 in the middle of it next to the number plate. If that's green, they've done it, they've taken it, they're all good. They don't need to come back into the pit lane. If they have still got that orange box with a number 1, they have to make a mandatory stop. So make sure you take that into consideration when you start deciding who to cheer for if you're a glory hunter. Anyway, those of them at the front, those still Sam Fleety, Sir Smokey, Eric Larson, etc., all still owe us a pit stop, whereas the only one really inside the top 5 fight, Dominic Ligner into the pit lane, and, well, convincingly in some clear air, and, well, if he can push in that clear air, he might actually find himself gaining some ground.
Yeah, certainly so. Another driver who needs to really be pushing in the clear air is Eric Larson at the moment. I mean, fighting alongside Gerrick Hamling, Jack Southfield lost a little bit of time, but he could gain that back getting the undercut. So he's got to be careful. That position for the last places on the podium, as Smokey, Larson and Sam Fleety have now come into the pit lane. So Hamling, the only driver in that top 5 fight yet to come in at the moment. And I think the stop go 30 penalties are being handed out quite readily. I think Giuseppe Sampieri got himself one just a little bit further down the grid, but Hamling's got some work to do. He's got to really push now on this lap.
Do or die for Guillaume Hamling. I mean, he's out in front. He's got himself a abundance of clear air, and he's got to use it. He's got to drive that Lamborghini like no one else has ever done before. Through the quick flick to the right. More of a corner in GT3s as you dip down, ride your way down through the right-hander, rise up over a crest, then once again dipping back down for the flick to the right of turn number 9. Mind the curb on the inside, of course, then bring it back over all the way to the left-hand side. Really open turn 10 up. Latest apex, run it out to the extremities of the circuit, open it back up for turn 11, then bring it back through. But the top 4 still yet to come into the pit lane. Right on board though with Eric Larson. He's got a Mercedes just in front of him. That is not for track position, however, is a good 3.7 seconds behind Sir Smokey. But Guillaume Hamling, I think, is the person that Eric Larson is racing against in that bid for the strategical game in this race. Thinking of Dominic Ligner versus Sir Smokey, well, that gap, I think once everything's refreshed, yeah, Sir Smokey's gained time in the pit lane.
Yeah, it's going to be a weight off of his shoulders. He's had Dominic Ligner in his mirrors lap after lap after lap for the first half of this race, and he's finally dropped him, which Dominic's not going to be too happy about that, I don't think, and Larson won't be too happy with this Italian flag Mercedes just ahead of him. He's got Hamling and maybe even Jack Southfield to contend with as well. And there's Jack Southfield lingering in the background actually, so he's not too far back. But Larson has managed to stay out ahead of him. So Hamling stayed out, I think,
for yet another lap, I believe. Yeah, indeed. So he's stretching this really long, really taking it to the end, which I think is a good strategy. Because if he's done his fuel calculations right, he's not actually going to have that much fuel to top up to the end of the race. Of course, the later you go, the less you need to get to the end of the race in that regard. I think that makes sense. It makes sense in my head, so I hope it makes sense in yours. But, of course, you burn through the fuel, and with less time, you need less fuel because there's less laps to use. Eric Larson sending to the inside of the 24 Mercedes. Again, not for position, but a crucial position to make up in terms of track time. So, Guillaume Hamling might have a very, very short stop on his hands if he pits right towards the latter stage of this pit window, which could see him up a couple of places and gaining some time on those around him. Jack Southfield, we follow on with him, 1.3 seconds back off the Norwegian of Eric Larson, who you can just see in front of him. And that, I think, actually was why Eric Larson was in such a rush, because he knew that he's got Jack Southfield and Dominic Ligner hot on his heels.
Yeah, for sure. And Dominic Ligner, actually, that's a shocking amount of time he's lost in this pit stop window. And he's gonna be mad to be behind Jack Southfield. We saw how well that Porsche can defend last week, and he'll want to try and dispatch of him as quickly as possible. But yeah, you're right. Larson, he saw he's got 2 quick drivers behind him, and he thought, right, let's put this Mercedes in between them. Let's make them navigate that while I open it up. And here comes Dominic Ligner. He's looking to the outside now into this sharp right-hander even. It's going to be side-by-side through. It's going to be the inside again for the Audi, but the door closes on him. Jack Southfield keeping that car behind him now. He's keeping P8 for the time being. They've still got that Italian flag Mercedes to navigate, but Jack Southfield defending his position and showing us a defending masterclass once more.
Jack Southfield is the minister of the fence when it comes to the TSRC, Sergio Perez when it comes to real-life F1, and, well, Dominic Ligner is the minister of running wide at turn 15. He's done that a number of times so far in this race. Blue flags, of course, ducking and diving, following the 64 Porsche through. Welcome into Marnix Geister, of course, into the YouTube chat. Welcome into everyone into the YouTube chat. Make sure you're liking, subscribing, and turning the bell on for notifications to not miss a thing when it comes to JP Broadcasting. You're watching this fight now, the P8 overall in the pros, which should turn itself into the fight for fourth or fifth at the end of the pit lane sequence as Slab Velogia is in. Jack Southfield perilously trying to defend from the man in second place in the championship. Dominic Ligner hot on his heels, ducking, diving, rocking around the Christmas tree, trying to find a way through, and he's holding his way around. Bit of a question from Phil in the YouTube chat. Are blue flags not must-give-way flags? To my knowledge, no. When it comes to GT3 racing, if you're in the same class, you don't have to duck and dive out of the way. I mean, actually, in multi-class racing as well, you don't have to duck and dive out of the way. It's more a case of there's someone quicker behind you. Don't be harsh. Don't hold them up. Be predictable. And if they go for a move, don't defend, is what it's saying. It's not saying duck out of the way and completely give way. It's just a cautionary flag to warn you that there's someone behind you.
Yeah, I'm glad you cleared that up. I was wondering that myself as I was watching the race along. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, if you look at the car body language from a lot of the drivers, you know, they've not been yielding the places like you would in, say, Formula One, but they've been just been driving. They've been sensible, and they've, you know, when the cars come down the inside, they've not gone, oh, I'm going to squeeze you as tight to the curb. As Hamlin comes out, oh, this is tight between the two of them side by side through Tarzan now. Hamlin on the inside line as Jack South is going to try and find a way through this battle, reignited out of the pit lane. Right now, side by side, they continue to go. A little bit of contact as Jack South has set onto the grass. Both of them sent away. The Red Sea parting for the Audi of Dominic Ligner, who finds a way around the outside. No, he doesn't. He's still stuck behind that Porsche, even after that contact.
Jack Southfield cutting his way across the circuit in towards turn number 4, still finds himself ahead of Dominic Ligner, though Dirty Tyres sees the German dart his way to the right-hand side, side by side, contact! Jack Southfield off, Dominic Ligner off, both of them spinning their way across the banking. The 64 Porsche continues on, so too does Dominic Ligner. Southfield gives way and allows him through. Heartbreak, though, of course, for Guillaume Hamlin, who emerged from the pit lane only to make contact, door-to-door contact, and a very anticlimactic finale to what was previous a very good fight. Guillaume Hamlin followed suit, the driver from Luxembourg, finding his way off on that run through turn number 8 into 9. Very, very unfortunate for the Barwell Motorsport car. And, well, as Johnny Woo says, F's in chat. There is so unfortunate. Talk us through it, Sumo.
Yeah, so we watched them going side by side, a little bit of banging, and I think that was just enough to send Hamlin offline, and that was it. His car was just completely unsettled, and that had just sparked the incident. And sort of, you know, you had a Ligner behind trying to find a way through. Jack Southfield forced onto the grass, and lucky not to take a Ligner out there. But then, of course, there was the contact between the two of them a little bit later on. And I said this would happen, Zach, in qualifying. I said that, you know, you need to be committed, but some of these moves are going to be dangerous. There's going to be some incidents, and we've proven that just now.
Yeah, and as Ash is saying in the YouTube chat, close fight, it is going to happen. That is racing. These things do happen, and as unfortunate as it is, they do happen. And when the stakes are this high, when the pressure is this high, and you're at a circuit like Zandvoort, where the margins are this small, things happen, and it's understandable that they do happen, but it's not the way we like to see things end, particularly when you've got a three-way fight for 5th place in the pro class against some people who are big names in the series. It's not the way you want things to end, but unfortunately that's the way the cookie crumbles in some cases. But we still have 14 minutes left of racing action, still some things to uncover. And talking of things to uncover, Luca Raya potentially has done a pretty good strategy. We'll wait for things to reset. Actually, no, in all fairness, actually, where's Scott Vincent versus Luca Raya? Of course, Luca Raya is 3rd place in the championship. I think he's actually come out ahead of Scott Vincent. So this could be very, very good for the Nordis Racing team in terms of that BMW. Of course, Giuseppe Zampieri not having the best of races in all fairness, but Luca Raya, good strategy. 5.8 seconds clear of Scott Vincent in the championship. I'm just going to have a quick double check here, but Luca Rya's doing himself some good favours.
Yeah, he is, and is Mark Peters here? I don't think he is. I've not seen him on the timing tower, so this is exactly where he needs to be. I talked about capitalising on the points, and Luca Raya doing an incredible job to get himself in the lead of this Pro-Ams class at the moment, and he's definitely going to be maximising the points that he can get. And he's got, what, 6 seconds to Scott Vincent back there, who you just see creeping around that corner in the background. And wow, a great strategy, really playing it to perfection.
If this series didn't have drop rounds, Mark Peters would lose the championship lead as it stands. But Luca Raya is 12.5 points back on Mark Peters. Both of them in terms of their drop rounds. Mark Peters, if he's not here today, which he's not, will regain a 6th place. 6th place is his lowest. He's gone second, first, second, and then 6th place at Silverstone. And that is his drop week. So he'll regain one of those. So going into the final round, if he can get here and score points, he still has a good shot of winning the championship because of the fact he's done himself a lot of favours. So he'll get 6th place back. He'll take a nil as his drop week. So there shouldn't be major shifts in the championship fight. Only the difference between Luca Rya's 1st place and Mark Peters' 6th place, which I don't think is enough to shift the way. We'll double check, of course, when everything's finished, the calculations are done, and we go into that final round at Bathurst. But the championship is still alive for Mark Peters. It's not all over, but Luca Raya is doing himself, as we say, a lot of favours. And, well, again, when it's this late in the championship, this is really where you've got to start maximising your point. Martin Blankenstein, I'm saying to the Porsche, get out of my way. He's coming through. And while he has got a bit of a gap up to Jack Southfield, he doesn't want to lose against Elias Troy. I think it's got to be a pride thing for the Dane more than anything to say, yeah, you know what, the AM leader, I'm not having that. I'm not finishing behind an AM. I've got to get in front. Surely maybe that's going through his head.
Yeah, I think so. I think I feel like I felt that when I've been out on the racetrack. You know, I know somebody who I should normally be faster than, and you know, I want to be ahead of them. And even if it comes down to, say, I have a penalty or something, I still want to be the guy to finish first. All racing drivers are selfish in that regard. You know, they want to be the guys on the top. They want to be the guys, you know, doing the best out there on the circuit. And yeah, Martin Blankenstein, up until this point, has had quite a quiet race actually. I think he's navigating mostly traffic here, although he does have Samuel Chumley just a little bit behind as well. So there could be a position change in amongst the pros if anything were to go wrong.
Potentially so, and you're very right in saying to look backwards as well as forwards. So Martin Blankensteiner could be feeling the pressure from the 111 Audi with 10.5 minutes left to go of round number 5 here at Zandvoort for, of course, as I say, the TSRC PC GT3 Series here on ACC. A lot of acronyms in that name. TSRC, PC, GT3, and of course ACC. It really is a long one. But if I said it all in full, I'd be here forever. So have the abbreviations in that sense. Here we go. Race leader Sam Fleety. And well, we've said a number of times in previous broadcasts is the sense that sometimes the quiet races where you're not shown that often on broadcast are sometimes the best ones. We've not really had anything to say about Sam Fleety, and in the best of ways.
Yeah, certainly. He wowed us in qualifying with a great time, and he's just sort of had the dream race, I suppose. You know, not challenged in towards turn 1. He's had his 2 rivals fighting, taking time out of each other. He's had other members of the pros as well, sort of coming into collisions, and he's just been out on a Sunday. It's almost like a practice session for him, really. He's just sort of driving around, getting used to the track. And he's staying quick as well. I mean, those gaps really aren't coming down. 6.9 seconds it is to Sir Smogy, as Martin Blankensteiner getting ever closer to the back of Elias Troyer's yellow Audi.
Indeed so, and well, looking to make his way through. It would be the car between himself and Samuel Chumley just in behind, as we were saying. A vital position gained potentially for the Dane. And again, it's not for championship points, it's only for pride. But what it does mean is around a circuit like Zandvoort, his track position, and his track position that the Dane might need if he wants to hold on to 6th place in class. As it stands, Sam Fleety leads the way. Sir Smogy, Eric Larson, your podium. Very good drive, actually, from the 47 Mercedes. Dominic Ligner, Jack Southfield, 4 and 5. Elias Troyer leading the way in the AM, 6th place overall. Then comes Blankenstein, Chumley, Raya, and Volodja, your top 10. Been an incredibly close race for Zandvoort. I mean, there's definitely been more boring ones around Zandvoort, as a big slide there from Elias Troyer could open the door for Blankensteiner to find a way through, and he's going to want to capitalise on it. Left-hand side as they run their way down, so close to contact, considering the fact they're in, well, opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of classes. And, well, Elias Troyer not giving this one up easy at all. All this is doing is fueling the frustration for Blankensteiner as Chumley gets ever closer.
Yeah, he is. I'm watching that pink car just behind, really. I think Martin Blankenstein is a little bit frustrated with that. He looked to be setting up a switchback, but there was just no way through. I mean, the nature of that corner on the inside line is the better way. And there's a car off just ahead as well. I'm not sure who that was. I think that was that Jack Southfield? What's happened to him?
Well,
oh, no, he's just up ahead, actually.
Okay.
Never mind.
Panic over. Right, honestly, he's right in front of him. Kelsey. Honestly, you had me panicked for a second, I'll be honest. But someone's off in the background. That's I mean, it's Zandvoort, so something is going to be happening in the front. 7 and a bit minutes left to go. Martin Blankenstein are finding a way through and actually could eye up P5 in the pro class if he plays his cars right. He's doing a fantastic job and, well, is looking to have a fantastic result. Of course, 4th place in the AMs for Season 2 and is looking to impress in the pros for Season 3 and has done exactly that. Inside line for Elias Troyer opens the gap maybe for Martin Blankenstein to follow him through if the gap remains open. Inside line as they run their way in towards turn number 9. Martin Blankenstein might just follow the AM leader through. He does exactly that. Here comes Samu Chumley on the scene, though. 3 wide in towards turn number 10. Backs out of it. The Mercedes of Blankenstein inside line. Jack Southfield, though, long way round, gives him once again the inside for turn number 11. Has Martin Blankenstein got the outside run? No, he hasn't. Opens the door very wide for the 111 Audi R8 to have a bit of a look. Down the back straight once more, and Jack Southfield once again proving how wide that Porsche's rear end really can be.
Yeah, he is. It's all kicking off. I think there's been some contact, I think the Mercedes went into the back of Jack Southfield. I think the damage on Jack Southfield's car is what's dropping him back, I think. He must be struggling driving that. I mean, the front of that Porsche looks incredibly beat up at the moment, and Martin Blankenstein, I think he'll be fuming behind the wheel after that. He's lost out big time, and Samuel Chumley has made his way up into P8 now. Well, no, P6 even.
Yeah, he has, and really capitalising on, of course, that turn of events. Martin Blankenstein, I think, got caught out a little bit, maybe spooked by Jack Southfield going so suddenly off the road. Either way, he's not complaining, and up into 6th place overall, 5th place in class, of course. So, yeah, bit of not too bad for Samuel Chumley, for considering the fact that he started towards the back of the field. He's not doing too well, and speaking of drives from the back of the field, Davide Massi, P12 overall, and yes, he's 7 places back on Elias Troyer on circuit, is actually inside line. It might not remain that way for long as Paul Sims tries to find a way through. Bit of front left to middle of that Ferrari versus the BMW. But Davide Massi didn't qualify. We thought the championship leader was going to lose some significant points in this race, but quite the opposite. He's only going to be losing the points between 1st and 2nd in the AM championship battle. And versus Elias Troyer, that is very, very important, and a drive that will craft the champion, I'm sure, because it's drives like these that really show your consistency and your determination to bounce back even when things aren't going your way.
Yeah, for sure, and I only think there's about 3 or 4 of the AMs on the circuit. I don't know if Badari retired from the race. He had a big incident, it seemed, right at the beginning, but we couldn't quite see it. As a side-by-side they go once again through this twisty section. The inside line for Davide Massi. He's going to keep that Ferrari, make him go all the way around. No way through once again. So these two, they're fighting into class, of course, so no change in the championship between the two of them, but they're putting on a bit of a show.
They are. I mean, I can't complain. Racing's racing at the end of the day. If they're going to put on a fight, we might as well get excited and hype it up just a little bit. 4.5 minutes left on the clock, and, well, no change in terms of the lead incoming is the bold, not so bold assumption to make. Sam Fleety has been on fire since the beginning of this race. Smogy doing a brilliant job. Unfortunately, Dominic Ligner not having the way in his way in this race for the German, who, it's a shame, but I mean, could cost him some points versus Sam Fleety because of the fact, I know you said earlier that Dominic Lignas and Smogy are going to be looking to try and run away with the Pro Championship ahead of Sam Fleety. However, in this race, Sam Fleety, 65 points. Dominic Lignas, 67.5 points. Only a 2.5 point swing. Could see Sam Fleety up into 2nd place in the championship and gaining some points on Sir Smogy to make the finale even closer when we take to Bathurst. The same mistake from Elias Troyer through turn 11 could allow Samuel Chumley through, and again, not for position, but again for a bit of pride and while to round off the race on a high. Elias Troyer going defensive because, well, he's got everything to lose in this race, but he's got a bit of a margin to play with. So Samuel Chumley going to look to the outside, back up the inside for turn number 13. Still running their way too wide. The 63 Audi R8 looking seconds. Left-hand side of shot, the right-hand side of the circuit into the penultimate corner of turn 14. Samuel Chimunley sailing his way around the outside, now in towards the final corner, a very long way around the outside. No banking to help him out, but stays ahead and gets ahead in that Audi R8. Now up into 5th place overall, and well into 5th place in class as well for good measure. But yeah, good bit of racing there between the two Audis. Granted, there's Elias Stroyer. Ooh, wow. Considering he's 2 classes behind Samuel Chimunley, he's given him a good old fight.
Yeah, he's giving him a run for his money there, and that was a great little bit of a side-by-side action between the two of them through about three corners or so. And I think, you know, once Samuel Chimunley made his way on the inside in that second part of their battle, I think it was done and dusted. I mean, the next corner following the braking is actually quite surprising how much you have to brake for that corner. It looks like you have to sort of go for it, but you do have to brake a little bit. And if you're on that inside line, like Elias Stroyer found himself, then he's had to brake a lot more, and that was what invited Samuel Chimunley to swoop straight around the outside and make a move. And we're watching now Hamlin trying to find a way past Rubini. At the moment, no way through for that Lamborghini, and I wonder as well, what damage? What's the damage situation on that car, because that had quite an impact as well.
Yeah, I don't think it was pretty, the front end of that Lamborghini, and it looks a little bit prettier now, so maybe coming in to repair some damage to see him all the way down in P16 and trying to recover however best he can. But it is going to be last in the pros for Guillaume Hamlin, and today has not been his day. Coming on to the final couple of laps of this race, I believe this is the penultimate lap for Sam Fleety, potentially. We'll catch up with him in a sec, but Guillaume Hamlin, defensive goes Rubini. Hamlin keeping him squeezed, but the Mercedes coming over, they clash, and the Mercedes, well, respect to him, actually points it the right way. Guillaume Hamlin, though, well, I don't know. What do you make of that, Kelsey?
I have no idea what's happened here. My steward brain turning on there. You know, I think Rubini's just made a strange move. He knew he had the car right behind him, but I won't go too much into it, lest I be dogged in the comments by some angry drivers. But yeah, I think a bit of a silly one, really.
Yeah, it's a straight line. You can't really be doing that. But Davide Massi, Paul Sims still fighting it out for P12 overall, and again an interclass fight, but having a bit of a fun as they round their way onto what will be, I believe, the final lap, maybe the penultimate one. Again, we'll have to check in with Sam Fleety to see where he is on his one around. Yeah, so penultimate lap, I think. Yeah, penultimate lap. So Sam Fleety is now starting the final lap of the race with 38 seconds on the clock. When he comes around, the timer will hit 0, and well, the checker flag will be waved. And what a race it has been for Sam Fleety. He's just been completely on fire. And again, coming back to that point, he's had such a quiet race, but he's been so dominant that it's really just been fantastic and a masterclass really from Fleety, and a big statement going into the final round too.
Yeah, a big statement as well. I think Sam Fleety's going to be throwing down the gauntlet, as it were, and saying, right, you know, come on, Smokey, I'm not out of this yet. I'm making up some points, and Ligno I've put him behind me now. He's had a bit of a day in the office, says Dominic Ligno. I think he's lost out in the pit stops. I mean, P4's not too bad, but he's ended up behind Larson, which is not where he would have wanted to go. And of course, more importantly, he's ended up behind Sir Smokey. And yeah, it's been a great race from Sam Fleety. He's just been on it from the start all the way to what will be the end, and he's only got a few more corners to navigate. And he'll be looking back on this race thinking, God, all that happened in all that time? I was just driving, man.
He was just chilling. He was doing his own thing on a good old Thursday evening drive. Sam Fleety, no complaints his way. He's got a couple more corners left to go, and 12.5 seconds clear of his championship rival of Sir Smokey. Zandvoort has gone the way of Sam Fleety in the most dominant fashion for the Mercedes. He came, he saw, he most certainly did conquer. One more corner left to go, then a run to the line for the number 16 Mercedes. The biggest statement possible going into the final round. He takes victory in the Netherlands around the circuit of Zandvoort. Sir Smokey, well, let's go put the kettle on and wait for him to cross the line. 12.5 seconds back. The championship leader losing some points, losing some momentum potentially, but still picks up second place. Just in behind there, the Honda NSX waiting. That's Marie Stryker about a lap down. So Eric Larsen, the Norwegian, will then come across the line in a pretty good race, actually, in fairness, for the 47 Mercedes to take a podium finish. Dominic Aligna, though, well, all you can say is sheesh for, well, a P4 is a bad result for Dominic Ligner, which says a lot about him as a driver, but not the footing he would have wanted going into that final round. Samuel Chumley, Elias Troyer, the run to the line, but here is Elias Troyer. We're going to talk about the leader of the AMs before we talk about the leader of the Silvers. What a race it's been for Elias Troyer, and what an advancement in the championship it's been for him too. Dominance in that 63 Audi R8, and finally the Italian, the Nordest Racing Team driver of Luca Raya, extends, or well, makes a good foot forward in the Silver Championship. Across the line, he takes victory here in Zandvoort. Also, to round off our 3 classes, Davide Massi was leading the way in the AMs, but may see some time and points lost going the way of Elias Troyer, but still leading the way going into the final round. For good measure, running a little bit wide through turn 15. Flash the lights, P2 from the back of the grid. Davide Massi, though, round of applause. It was a fantastic race for him. And well, 40 minutes on the clock. That was a good show in there, Kelsey.
Yeah, it was great. I think it was everything I was expecting going into this race. You know, there's going to be some tough racing. There's going to be some overtaking here and there. And there's definitely going to be some incidents. And, you know, we saw that again. Jack Southfield getting scrappy once more. And it's been quite the race at Zandvoort. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I hope everybody in the live chat has as well.
Well, 40 minutes of racing action. Here is how they racked up after 25 laps of it. Sam Fleety takes victory and the fastest lap as well for good measure. As I said, making a very big statement for a week's time at Bathurst. So Smogy, Eric Larson, the podium with Dominic Ligner and Samuel Chumley, your top 5. Elias Troyer, P6 overall on road, but P1 in the AM standings. Jack South with P7, Martin Blankensteiner and Slav Volodya, 7th, 8th and 9th respectively. Then comes the podium for the Silvers. Luca Raya, Scott Vincent and Paul Sims, 10th, 11th and 12th. Davide Massi from the back of the field up to 2nd in the AMs, making big damage limitation gains for him in his bid for the AM title. Maurice Stryker, Guillaume Hamling, not the best day in the office for those two, particularly seeing as it's Maurice Stryker's home race. And of course, Guillaume Hamling just next door in Luxembourg, not going to be looking too happy to see the way this race went. James Wright, Rubini, Zampieri just in behind there for another string of 3 in the Silvers. Anthony Schattler putting his novice plate to good use with, well, Simone Badari, the lone non-finisher, well, actually, the second non-finisher of the day, with Schattler finishing just about 13 laps just in front of him there, on 9 laps down as opposed to 24 laps down for Simone Badari. But, well, Kelsey, give us a quick summary of that race. I mean, how important was this race? I mean, we take it as face value. We've got this race, but surely this penultimate round was more a stepping stone than anything going into a week's time at Bathurst.
Yeah, I think what this race has done is it's set the stage now. Like, this is it. Like, we're going in next week. It's the final round at Bathurst, as you say. And, you know, this is where, you know, the drivers had to perform today, of course. They have to perform every time they're out on the circuit. But they've definitely got to perform next week. And this is where it's crunch time. You know, that's what this race has done. It's set up for what is to come. And for what is to come is going to be quite the showdown between, I think, all of the classes. Really, all of the classes have got some fighting on their hands, and we'll be watching. It'll be all eyes on Sir Smogy, Sam Fleety, and possibly Dominic Ligner if today hasn't hit him too hard.
That's very true indeed. And we'll look at this into the next session for free practice, and it's raining. We could have had this like 10 minutes ago, could we? But no, Zandvoort picking and choosing its time in terms of the weather. And well, very much a pleasure to have you alongside me in the commentary. Pleasure as always to have you guys watching along in the YouTube chat. And well, just before we go, I wanna shed some good light. I mean, end on a high. Congratulations, of course, to the Sim Racing Collective, because they've recently announced that there are now a recommended community for Motorsport UK esports. Of course, Motorsport UK, a big name when it comes to, funnily enough, UK motorsport. They are a big sort of name in some series. I mean, you look to Britcar and Praga Cup and things like that. They're a name there. They've also got the Motorsport UK Academy, where you've got drivers like Deegan Fairclough, Monica Bott and Ramos, just to name a couple. I think also Luke Browning was a part of the Motorsport UK as well. He's the 2022 GB3 champion. And yeah, that's just a big name, and it's awesome that they're now bridging their way into esports and now seeing themselves here with TSRC as well in a joint partnership to progress both and continue their journey. Of course, in terms of JPB, make sure you have liked, subscribed, turn the bell on for notifications, of course, as well. And of course, look forward to anything coming up in the future. I mean, when it comes to JPB, there is always something to tickle your fancy. We take to pretty much anything any day of the week. And just having a quick look at the calendar right now, today we've got the Radical Racing Series. Of course, you've just watched the TSRC. Tomorrow we take to some touring cars. On Saturday we've got a couple of endurance races. We've got the Platinum Endurance Championship 6 hours and the VWSC Historic Race. Then on Sunday, a couple bit more and more radicals, more GT3s, NASCARs, F1 cars. Again on Thursday, the TSRC Bathurst, and well, a lot here on the JP Broadcasting YouTube channel. There is a lot to indulge in, so definitely do get yourself stuck in and well, see what you enjoy, because you will definitely find a home here. In terms of us in the commentary booth here for the TSRC PC GT3 Series here for season number 3, round number 5 here at Zandvoort, Netherlands. It's been myself, Zach Sweeney. Kelsey Gill has been alongside me. Kieran Sharp back in the production booth, pushing all the buttons and trying to keep up with all of the racing action. It's been a pleasure to have you in the commentary booth with us, of course, in the YouTube chat. You've been giving us some things to feed off of, and it's been a pleasure to have you with us. But a week's time, same time, of course, around about 8 p.m. GMT for those of you in the UK. Translate that to whatever you are around the world. You are not going to want to miss it. The season 3 finale takes to Mount Panorama, takes to Bathurst, a legendary circuit. But in the meantime, it's a very warm goodbye.